April 15th, 2022, and I was in my building, in the gym in my building, working out. When I finished my workout, I went back upstairs to the apartment, and I walked into the apartment, and my chest automatically felt very tight, like a weird feeling, and I felt like maybe it was because I worked out a certain way, and it was just this tightness, but then I started sweating. I had realized that I was in a place where I wasn't very familiar. It was a scary place where I felt I was losing consciousness. It felt very odd and fearful because it's something that I hadn't experienced before. It wasn't like a strain or anything of that nature. It came on very fast and very strong. And I called my neighbor and I said to her, I'm calling her, that I think I'm having a heart attack. And those were my choice words. You know, I think about it in hindsight now that those words saved my life. Here I was in fucking distress, you know, I had no shirt on. I just came up from the gym. I was sweating profusely. You know, I was in bad shape, and they didn't know how to assess my situation. You know, they called 911, and then 911 came, and they came into the apartment, and Sir, my bulldog, was there, and it was funny because the EMT, who actually was one of the people who saved my life, was afraid of Sir. But they assessed me at that point, took my vitals and everything, and they said, let's get him downstairs right away, you know. And all I remember was sitting in the wheelchair and then nothing. Now I'm in the ambulance in front of the building. Time was a daze. I wasn't coherent at all at that point. I had blacked out, and they were reviving me, trying to resuscitate me in order to go to the hospital and bring me to the hospital. They weren't moving until they stabilized me, because at that point I had died in the ambulance. They brought me back, and then I died again. So it was 2 times, and they finally stabilized me. But it was in that moment that I heard this voice. It was a woman's voice. It was very predominant. And it was like a woman yelling at me and saying, this is your life. Those words, that voice, wherever, whoever it was, brought me back to life. So out of the 2 times in the ambulance, I died 5 additional times. 7 total times within a 24-hour period. Tomorrow's not promised, you know? And I experienced that. It just dawned on me when I was in the hospital and afterwards to create this piece, you know? I was such in a dark place at that time. You know, there was many things that spoke to me, both spiritually and creatively. Pushing forward as an artist was something that I wanted to do. The fear was essentially what was taking over me at that point. I had survived a very traumatic situation where only 10% of people survive what I had, which was a VFib heart attack. I was blessed, I was gifted, I was fortunate. So back to light for me was taking that very dark moment and place I was, where I was still wrestling with the darkness. And that fear and faith was like at war with one another. I started by hand sketching. I had a CAT scan done of my head. And what I did was I took that CAT scan and I sketched it out, and I turned that into the original art, which in turn went to the CNC fabricator, which I had the template made for the piece itself. The next step from there is taking the concept for the skull itself. I come from, born in the 70s, I'm an 80s, 90s baby. You know, I love everything nostalgia, and I wanted to kind of pay a homage to my childhood. And it just clicked, you know, when I seen Light Bright, which is something that I had envisioned doing a piece with, but I didn't know how, when, or where I was gonna do it. And this was the perfect opportunity because it played into the light part of me coming back to life and fighting my own battle with the darkness. Things started coming to me, like cutting the acrylic pegs and putting 724 pegs in there. The number 7 is symbolic to the time that I died 7 times, which has come up many times in my life and over the last few years. It's a very biblical number as well. There's many references to 7, but I didn't even realize that I was putting 724 pieces until I actually counted all of the pieces. So that 7 was the number again, of things evolving and, and this piece coming together. But the piece itself is so dramatic, and it's dramatic because it comes from a traumatic place that I was in. It's immersive, that you can use a remote and put the lights on and make them as high as you want or low as you want. Brightening, getting as bright as I possibly can, So Back to Light is a one-of-one piece that tells the story of that traumatic experience that I had and me coming through it and coming to the other side of it. There'll be 7 pieces in total in the series, each kind of depicting a time and place in my life. If you want to experience Back to Light, it is now on view at Onyx Gallery at 104 Central Park West in New York City. It has a beautiful plaque in the front of it, and the plaque is from the mayor's office. It was me and 9 other survivors that were brought into a ceremony that they do once a year, the fire department, and we were given a survivor certificate, which was beautiful, and it really highlights the incident that happened. It's not only for me. I realized that this piece wasn't just about me. This piece was about the 9 other survivors that year that survived what I went through, that I met, which was beautiful individuals. Stories were amazing, stories of miracles. The EMTs that saved my life, the fire, the doctors. I mean, it's everybody and anybody who was instrumental in me being in front of you right now telling my story. It wasn't just one individual. So that piece for me was really important because I wanted to tell the story of everybody who was involved in that,